serving the Republic of the Philippines for more than 75 years. Ito po ang Presidential Broadcast Service.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang. Here are today's Palace top stories. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday led the distribution of various government assistance to Pampanga residents affected by the weather disturbances, including 2 typhoons over the past 2 weeks. Among the agencies that extended assistance to Pampanga residents are the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, and the Department of Agriculture, or DA. In his speech during the aid distribution in San Fernando, Pampanga, President Marcos assured that the government would continue to provide support to those affected by the recent typhoons. The DSWD distributed food packs and 10,000 pesos each under the Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situations, or AICS program to about 1,000 beneficiaries. The DOLE, Tulong Panghanap Buhay sa Ating Disadvantaged Displaced Workers, or TUPAD program, also extended 2.3 million pesos to 500 beneficiaries. The agency has a standby fund of 65 million pesos for around 14,000 TUPAD beneficiaries, and on August 4 downloaded another 30 million pesos in Pampanga through its regional office. The agency likewise awarded 6.4 million pesos worth of livelihood assistance to the towns of Candaba, Macabebe, Masantol, Arayat, Porac, and Santa Ana. The DA meanwhile awarded a certificate worth 21.6 million pesos to Pampanga Province. This includes 13,354 bags of certified seeds worth 20.2 million pesos to 8,723 farmer beneficiaries, 186 bags of hybrid yellow corn, and 15 bags of open pollinated variety of worth 1.1 million pesos to 154 farmer beneficiaries, and assorted vegetable seeds worth 230,000 pesos to 162 farmer beneficiaries. President Marcos also joined a situation briefing at the Pampanga Capitol to assess the damage of recent typhoons and extensive flooding in the province, and to determine additional assistance that could be extended. Meanwhile, the reported death toll due to the combined effects of the southwest monsoon, or habagat, and typhoons Egay and Falcon has now climbed to 30, according to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC. In its bulletin, the NDRRMC said only 4 deaths have been confirmed as of this time, 2 of which were from the Cordillera Administrative Region, or CAR, and 1 each in Calabarzon and Western Visayas. This is higher than the 27 deaths reported last August 2. Still undergoing confirmation are 26 deaths, 13 of them in Cordillera, 8 in Ilocos Region, 3 in Calabarzon, and 1 each in Western Visayas and Davao Region. Persons reported injured were placed at 171, with 152 of which have been confirmed and 19 are still undergoing validation. Still undergoing confirmation are reports of 10 missing persons, 5 of them from Cordillera, 4 from Cagayan Valley, and 1 in Ilocos Region. Meanwhile, affected population was placed at 871,407 families, which is equivalent to 3,249,796 persons residing in 5,073 barangays in 14 regions. All these numbers are subject to change following validation. The Office of Civil Defense earlier said the affected families are a combination of those displaced and those not needing transfer or removal from their residence. DSWD Secretary Rex Gatchalian also attended attended the situation briefing on all disaster hit areas and joined President Marcos in inspecting the distribution of relief assistance. To date, he said the DSWD Central Luzon Regional Office has provided more than 46.4 million pesos worth of relief assistance to the local government units or LGUs in the region, with over 19.1 million pesos distributed to the localities of Pampanga. During the situation briefing, Pampanga Governor Dennis Pineda provided information on the damages caused by widespread flooding due to a series of weather disturbances in the province. As of August 6, the DSWD recorded a total of 214,343 families affected by floods in different towns of Pampanga.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ordered on Monday the conduct of an extensive study on the proposed construction of an impounding system in Candaba, Pampanga, as a long-term solution to the flooding problem in the province. The establishment of a huge collection pool in Candaba was discussed during the President's meeting with Pampanga local officials to address massive flooding in Central Luzon. Some local officials are opposing the planned construction, fearing its impact on people's livelihood, particularly to palay farmers. The project was proposed by former Public Works and Highways Secretary Rogelio Singson in 2013 as a solution to flooding concerns in Central Luzon. Local officials said the project could affect more than 9,000 residents in Candaba, adding that the DPWH made the proposal at that time without incorporating measures to be done for families that would be affected by the project. Under Singson's proposal, the government will secure or buy around 200 hectares or 10% of the 2,000 hectare swamped land in Candaba to build a water impounding area to prevent flooding in nearby and low-lying areas. During the meeting, President Marcos assured the towns in Pampanga that the national government won't just run through the project as it needs first the approval of local government units or LGUs. He also assured that those who will be displaced by the proposed project will be relocated to other areas that are equally productive as their current holding. The construction of a huge collection pool is one of the solutions raised during the meeting. As a short-term measure, the President also mentioned the conduct of dredging operations and elevating certain structures in San Simon, Pampanga to ease heavy traffic in flooded areas.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has said the government is currently working on climate change mitigation strategies to address the decades-long flooding problem. In an interview on the sidelines of the distribution of aid in Bulacan on Monday, President Marcos said several strategies were already in place to address the effects of climate change. One of these measures, he said, is the construction of water impounding stations to control floodwaters from going downstream. This proposal was also raised by Bulacan Governor Daniel Fernando during the situation briefing in Malolos City.
Mabuti naman at mukha naman nagkakaunawan both at the local level at saka sa national level tungkol sa mga maaring gawin na proyekto para hindi na sana maulit ito kung maitapos natin yung mga proposal na ganun.
President Marcos cited the need to implement some strategies and to understand how to address the problem to avoid massive flooding similar to Pampanga and Bulacan.
Nagiging effect ng climate change. Kaya natin pag-aralan at maunawaan kung ano yung maaari natin gawin. Dahil mahirap labanan yung weather, kailangan mag-adjust tayong lahat. And we have to do many things.
The President personally handed over financial and food assistance to flood victims in Pampanga and Bulacan.
Dateline Malacañang.
Of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is asking Congress to earmark about 31 billion pesos worth of calamity fund for 2024. Under the 2024 National Expenditure Program or NEP, about 17.949 billion pesos of the proposed calamity fund or the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund or NDRRMF would be allotted for aid, relief, and rehabilitation services to communities or areas affected by natural and or induced calamities. The remaining 13.051 billion pesos would be used for the repair and reconstruction of permanent structures, including other capital expenditures for disaster operation and rehabilitation activities. The proposed NDRRMF is higher than the 20.5 billion pesos appropriated under the 2023 General Appropriations Act. The granting of funds is subject to the approval of the President, taking into consideration the recommendation of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, for local disasters, or the appropriate agency for international crisis. In making a recommendation, the NDRRMC should consider the donations or grants received by agencies in support of efforts to address calamities. A separate 7.425 billion pesos worth of Quick Response Fund, or QRF, will be appropriated to 9 government agencies. The Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, in a statement on Tuesday said the 9 offices that would receive the QRF are considered first responder agencies during calamities and disasters such as typhoons, earthquakes, and fires. About 3 billion pesos of the 7.425 billion pesos QRF will be given to the Department of Education, 1.25 billion pesos to the Department of Social Welfare and Development, 1 billion pesos each to the Department of Public Works and Highways and the Department of Agriculture, and 500 million pesos each to the Department of National Defense and the Department of Health. The Philippine Coast Guard will receive 75 million pesos, while the Bureau of Fire Protection and the Philippine National Police will get 50 million pesos each. Once their QRF dips to 50% or less, the 9 agencies may request that the DBM, subject to the President's approval, for replenishment through the NDRRMF. The DBM noted that under Republic Act 11936, there is also a Local Government Support Fund, or LGSF, for local government units, or LGUs. According to the special provision of the LGSF under the 2023 General Appropriations Act, about 1,925,500,000 will be used for financial assistance to LGUs, and about 236,336,000 will be tapped in support of capital outlays and social programs of the local governments. The LGSF financial aid to LGUs may only be used until December 31, 2024.
Dateline Malacañang.
National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea, or NTFWPS, slammed China's attempts to block Philippine efforts to resupply its troops stationed in Ayungin Shoal over the weekend. In a joint briefing with the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, National Security Council Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya said such acts violate humanitarian and international laws, as the Philippines was only conducting legal activities to support its troops manning the BRP Sierra Madre located in Philippine territory.
The National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea, led by National Security Advisor Eduardo Maño, strongly condemns the aggressive, dangerous, and unlawful actions by the Chinese Coast Guard and Chinese maritime militia vessels against Philippine chartered supply boats and Philippine Coast Guard vessels who were undertaking a regular rotation and resupply mission in Ayungin Shoal last Saturday, August 5, 2023.
He said repeated water cannoning and continuous dangerous maneuvers by the CCG and CMM vessels put the lives of the crew members of the Philippine vessels in danger.
We wish to underscore that the Philippine vessels were undertaking regular and lawful activities in support of BRP Sierra Madre LS-57, a commissioned Philippine Navy vessel permanently stationed in Ayungin Shoal, which is well within our continental shelf and exclusive economic zone.
He also blamed the CCG and CMM's dangerous and unlawful tactics for preventing the second Philippine supply boat from completing its mission of bringing food, water, and other provisions to Filipino troops. At one point, Malaya said a CCG vessel blocked the way of a Philippine Coast Guard or PCG ship within 20 yards, a maneuver that could have resulted in a collision if not for the quick thinking and action of Filipino Coast Guard crews.
the dangerous and illegal tactics employed, which are evidenced by photos, videos, and other official reports, are a clear and unmistakable violation of domestic laws, the Convention on the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea UNCLOS, and the 2016 Arbitral Award, which recognizes the Philippines' rights in the West Philippine Sea.
Malaya also emphasized that the CCG and CMM vessels have no right to place a blockade or impede or otherwise control the movement of the PCG and Philippine supply boats in Ayungin Shoal or anywhere else in the West Philippine Sea, especially when these vessels are engaged in resupplying Filipino troops deployed there.
While one Philippine supply boat was blocked by Chinese vessels from reaching the shoal, another Philippine supply boat was able to break the blockade and successfully delivered much-needed supplies and provisions to BRP Sierra Madre.
For this exemplary action, Malaya said the NTF-WPS commended the men and women of the Armed Forces of the Philippines Western Command, the Philippine Navy, and the PCG for their daring, bravery, and commitment to duty despite all odds and despite the continuous Chinese bullying, harassment, and intimidation.
We demand that the government of the People's Republic of China immediately cease and desist all its perversive, unlawful, and unacceptable activities in the West Philippine Sea. Guided by the directive of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in his second State of the Nation address, the Philippine government will continue to uphold its sovereign rights and preserve our nation's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Malaya also assured the Filipino people that the government will not lose any inch of its territory. He also added that the government will never waver in its determination to resupply the country's troops stationed in Ayungin Shoal and other Philippine-occupied features. Under the Marcos administration, Malaya said the government will continue to uphold the implementation of the 2016 Arbitral Award in relation to its rights in the West Philippine Sea in defense of a rules-based international order.
Our position is clear. The award is final and indisputable, and we firmly reject attempts to undermine it. But guided by the President, we will always pursue constant dialogue and diplomatic approaches with other claimants towards the resolution of any issue that might arise.
In the same briefing, PCG spokesperson for West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela, said the morale of the crew of the two vessels involved, BRP Cabra and BRP Malabrigo, remains high, adding the PCG will continue to support missions by the AFP. He noted that the PCG's multi-role response vessels, or MRRVs, such as these said vessels, are also equipped with water cannons, but unlike the Chinese Coast Guard, he said the Philippine Coast Guard will not use that against them, as they are only intended for firefighting. Meanwhile, AFP spokesperson Colonel Medel Aguilar said the number of Philippine assets for the conduct of future resupply missions has already been increased, and added that he cannot reveal exact details for security considerations. He also rejected China's call for the Philippines to tow away the grounded vessel. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, has since summoned Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Huang Xilian, and demanded the immediate cessation of China's illegal activities and to stop interfering in legitimate Philippine government activities. To date, the DFA said about 445 diplomatic protests have been filed against China since 2020.
Dateline Malacañang.
Related news, the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, on Monday officially summoned Chinese ambassador to Manila, Huang Xilian, and demanded the cessation of illegal and dangerous activities in the West Philippine Sea, or WPS. In a statement, the DFA said a strong protest was delivered by DFA Undersecretary Maria Teresa Lazaro in a note verbal to Huang following the water cannoning and blocking incidents during a resupply mission for Philippine military personnel stationed at BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal on August 5. It said the DFA firmly asked China to direct its vessels to stop their illegal actions against Philippine vessels and to stop interfering in legitimate Philippine government activities. It expressed disappointment that its counterpart through the maritime communication mechanism was unreachable for several hours while the incident was ongoing. It hopes that the Chinese side would reciprocate with the same sense of urgency the communications initiated by the Philippines, as has been demonstrated by the Philippines when receiving communications initiated by the Chinese side. It also noted that the Ayungin Shoal is a low tide elevation that cannot be appropriated or subjected to sovereignty claims, adding the final and binding July 12, 2016 award in the South China Sea arbitration expressly stated that Ayungin Shoal is within the exclusive economic zone and continental shelf of the Philippines, over which the Philippines has sovereign rights and jurisdiction. The recent incident, it said, is contrary to China's flag state obligations under the 1972 International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea, or COLREGs, which requires states to take measures to ensure safety at sea and prevent ship collisions. On Saturday, two Philippine Coast Guard or PCG vessels were escorting two indigenous boats chartered by the Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP for the resupply mission when they encountered six larger CCG vessels, two Chinese maritime militia vessels, and three People's Liberation Army or PLA Navy vessels. The boats and the PCG vessels meant to deliver food, water, and other supplies to Ayungin Shoal were shot with water cannons and repeatedly blocked for over an hour by the Chinese ships, resulting in several near collisions.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday assured that his administration is committed to supporting the modernization of the Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP, including the Philippine Army or PA. President Marcos made this remark as he challenged the new Army Chief Lieutenant General Roy Galido to work on building an agile, adaptable, competitive, and world-class army. During the PA change of command rides at the 4th Andres Bonifacio in Taguig City, President Marcos vowed to work with the new PA Commanding General to create a more conducive environment for growth by addressing threats to national security.
I look forward to working with you further, and I am confident that you will guide the Army to reach more milestones in our country, in our campaign to end in our country the insurgency and tourism threat, as well as to address the lingering and emerging threats to now our national security.
Elevating the Army to a world-class status will test the limits of Galido's character, but with the supervision, dedication, and perseverance of the new Army Chief and the rest of the troops, President Marcos said he is confident that the country can rightfully achieve this in no time at all. President Marcos also dared Galido, former Chief of the Western Mindanao Command or Westmincom, and the entire Army to lead and boost their engagements with their foreign counterparts.
I urge the entirety of our Army to enhance your interoperability and communications, as well as to learn best practices through training and joint exercises, which we intend to further expand. Hand in hand, we will work together to heighten the internal and external security of the Philippines, to create a more conducive environment for the comprehensive growth and empowerment of our people.
Meanwhile, President Marcos congratulated AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Browner Jr. for completing his tour of duty and developing the Army into a progressive and resilient force.
Under your leadership, we have established a firm defense against insurgency and terrorism by dismantling guerrilla fronts and intensifying our peace-building efforts. Through your initiatives to fortify our internal security, the Army has contributed to the development of conflict-affected communities and our overall progress as a nation. For all these and more, I extend my utmost respect, gratitude, and admiration. I truly wish you all success in your honorable endeavor now as the Armed Forces Chief of Staff.
The new Army Chief, Lieutenant General Galido, is a member of the Philippine Military Academy class of 1990. Before his tour of duty as commander of West MINCOM from January to August 2023, Galido served as the commander of the Army's 6th Infantry Campilan Division from August 2022 to January this year.
Dateline Malacañang.
Animal Industry or DABAI is currently drafting the guidelines for avian influenza or AI vaccination in collaboration with the Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners or PCPP. In a statement Monday, the DA said it presented this measure before the National Sectoral Committee on Poultry and Livestock or NSC on PL during a special meeting on August 1, where they discussed updates on the avian influenza and the African swine fever or ASF vaccines. It noted that the initial draft was presented in a public consultation among government implementers and representatives from the Food and Drug Administration, regional field offices, and other concerned agencies last July 11. On the other hand, a second public consultation will also be conducted on Tuesday with private sector stakeholders and government officers as the target participants. Dr. Generoso Rene Romo Jr. of the PCPP said the Philippines is currently facing problems with the avian influenza substrains H5N1 and H5N8. He also informed the committee that mutations are possible as a side effect of using non-accredited vaccines. At the same time, Romo introduced the qualifications they considered for the selection of vaccines, saying the first qualification should be homologous in activated vaccines, while the second is recombinant or platform-based vaccine that has already published cross-protection claims of humoral and cellular immunity. For the status of the ASF vaccine, Amanel Manalo of the BAI also reported that they already completed phase 1 of the trial testing with results showing at least 80% of the animals producing antibodies 28 days post-vaccination. Manalo also reported that they have ongoing trials for phase 2 in Batangas, Quezon, and Pangasinan, which will run until September this year. Meanwhile, the committee endorsed by a policy resolution to the DA through BAI the recommendations from the retrospective study on the epidemiology of African swine fever outbreaks in the Philippines. The study was commissioned by the Philippine Council for Agriculture and Fisheries to the Agricultural Training Institute International Training Center on Pig Husbandry or ATI-ITCPH to evaluate and identify the risk factors involved with the occurrence and spread of the virus. It also assessed the effectiveness of the national zoning plan and the control measures implemented by the national and local governments for the development of relevant and effective policy recommendations on ASF control and prevention.
Dateline Malacañang.
Secretary Jaime Bautista has ordered contractors of the North-South Commuter Railway or NSCR project to implement a catch-up plan after heavy rainfall and flooding have caused delays in the construction of its northern segment. In a news release Monday, the Department of Transportation said representatives from 7 contractors and 2 general consultants for the NSCR's northern segment from Pampanga province to Metro Manila reported to Secretary Bautista how heavy rain showers and floods affected the ongoing civil works. The continuous rain showers for the past 2 weeks due to weather disturbances, including 2 typhoons and the effects of the southwest monsoon, had caused flooding in several low-lying areas in Pampanga, Bulacan, and Metro Manila. The floods hit the ongoing construction of several rail stations, which were caused by the increasing volume of water in nearby rivers. When Secretary Bautista asked how long the projects may be delayed, the representative from one of the project's general consultant said it could span about 10 days to 2 weeks. The contractors are closely coordinating with several local government units where the rail projects are situated. Cleanup efforts and relief operations were also carried out by Sumitomo Mitsui Construction Corporation, the contractor for Contract Package or CP02, in coordination with local government units.
Dateline Malacañang.
Bureau of Corrections or Bucor on Monday relieved two prison officials pending an investigation into allegations of illegal activities brought up during a recent legislative inquiry. Bucor Director General Gregorio Pio Catapang Jr. has relieved Officer in Charge or OIC Deputy Director General for Administration Chief Superintendent Gerardo Aro and Officer in Charge Deputy Director for Operations and Head Executive Assistant Senior Inspector Angela Bautista due to their alleged involvement in irregularities. Bautista allegedly owns a catering company and supply meals to the Correctional Institution for Women in Mandaluyong City. Aro was also relieved as superintendent of the Davao Prison and Penal Farm as he was allegedly included in the previous administration's list of drug personalities. In an order dated August 5, Catapang ordered Deputy Director General for Administration General Al Pererias to look into the allegations of Laguna Lone District Representative Dan Fernandez and members of the Committee on Public Order and Safety during a House inquiry on August 3. Bautista said she is open to an investigation to clear her name. Based on Catapang's order, Chief Superintendent Rufino Martin, who served as Aro's deputy, was designated as DPPF Acting Superintendent, while Chief Superintendent Maria Fe Marquez was designated as Acting HEA. Catapang said the investigation will give the two senior officials the chance to clear their names and prove their innocence. He said he has given Pererias until the end of this month to finish his investigation.
Dateline Malacañang.
Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno said the government remains committed to securing an A credit rating from international rating agencies before the end of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s term. The Philippines currently has a BBB plus sovereign credit rating from S&P Global, a major rating agency. This is one notch below the minimum A rating target of the government. In his weekly press chat, Secretary Jokno said they are fully aware that the target is not going to be walk in the park, but said they are committed to working unceasingly to achieve the government's lofty goal. Last May 2023, Fitch Ratings affirmed the country's BBB rating and revised its outlook from negative to stable in view of their improved confidence in the Philippines' strong medium-term growth after the pandemic and sustained reductions in government debt to gross domestic product. Secretary Jokno said an A rating would affirm the Philippines' creditworthiness and would serve as a strong signal to local and international business and financial communities that the country is conducive to long-term investments. He said the rating will increase investment and will eventually help the country achieve its long-term economic plans, adding that getting an A credit rating will lower the government and the private sector's borrowing cost. The finance chief noted that the Philippines managed to maintain investor-grade ratings even during the pandemic while other countries were downgraded. Secretary Jokno acknowledged that given the current global environment, getting an A rating promises to be challenging. He cited Fitch Ratings' move to downgrade the United States debt rating due to the expected fiscal deterioration over the next 3 years and the high and growing general government debt burden. Secretary Jokno, however, said the Philippines is doing quite well despite the uncertainty in the global market.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes today's edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Win Peñano. Good day.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila. Dateline Malacañang.